From the National Newsroom of the Canadian Press, I'm Jason White. Canada's ambassador to the United States is trying to ease some of the anxiety around the North American Trade Pact coming up for renewal in a couple of weeks.
Everybody take a deep breath. Relax. It's all going to be okay.
Ambassador Mark Wiseman told a Toronto business audience today, while CUSMA is up for renewal July 1st, the deal itself doesn't expire for another decade. He says even if CUSMA isn't on the chopping block, Canada still urgently needs to resolve U.S. President Donald Trump's tariffs on steel, aluminum, and autos. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump has announced he's authorized an end to the U.S. blockade in the Strait of Hormuz. But he later said the strait would not reopen until the deal is officially signed on Friday. Prime Minister Mark Carney has arrived in France for the G7 summit.
Canada very much welcomes this progress. We'll have an opportunity starting from tonight at the G7 in Evian to see what we and other countries can do to help reinforce this important progress that's been made.
The leaders of Canada, France, Germany, Italy, and the UK said in a joint statement they welcome the announcement of the deal between the US and Iran. Some people who received proof of Canadian citizenship by descent are now being told to surrender their certificates of citizenship. One immigration lawyer says his client was told their application did not cite proof of Canadian family from original sources or explain why original documents were not provided. Changes last year removed some limits on who can apply for Canadian citizenship based on lineage. The federal government says the toxic drug crisis continues to have devastating effects, despite a decrease in opioid-related deaths last year. Indigenous Services Minister Mandy Gulmasti says the statistics show Indigenous communities have disproportionate rates of overdose, mental health challenges, and suicide.
For many Indigenous families, the effects of this crisis are not only immediate, they are personal, but also everlasting.
Federal officials also say the number of opioid-related deaths in Canada are higher than a decade ago, when the public drug crisis first emerged. Canada's telecom regulator has warned Bell and Telus again to drop their new fees or face consequences. Activation fees are now banned, but Bell says its $40 charge for customers buying new devices should be exempt because it's connected to an optional purchase. Last week, Telus introduced a $15 fee for its customers switching to a new SIM card. A small marsupial has been on the loose on Montreal's South Shore for several days. Social media video making the rounds shows it in a field in Boucherville, Quebec. The local SPCA thinks it's either a wallaby or a small kangaroo that escaped from a nearby horse stable, but it says it doesn't have authorization from the province to rescue the animal. This is the Canadian Press. In sports, Canada's captain Alphonso Davies continues to work his way back from a hamstring injury as the country prepares for its second FIFA World Cup game. Canada plays Qatar Thursday in Vancouver. Iran is set to play its first game at the World Cup tonight when it faces New Zealand in Los Angeles. The match comes a day after Iran and the United States say they reached a tentative deal to end their war. Tiny Cape Verde pulled off a stunning result in its World Cup debut today, shutting out heavily favored Spain. The final score of a 0-0 draw is the biggest shock of the tournament so far. In tennis, Felix Auger-Aliassime has advanced to the second round of the Tara Wortmann Open grass court tennis tournament. He beat Portugal's Nuno Borges today in Germany. Meanwhile, at London's Queen's Club, Denis Shapovalov ended a 5-match losing streak over Britain's Jack Pennington-Jones at the HSBC Championships. From the Canadian Press, I'm Jason White.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to follow and subscribe. For more of today's top stories, visit thecanadianpressnews.ca.